I can hear the demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. Sometimes I feel like all is lost, but I know it's not true. I wanna put up all my walls cause I'm not in the mood, but then I cut myself off from the rest of the room. I know that
Yeah, what's up? What's going on, everybody? It's Super Dave back at it again with the PA Political Revolution Podcast. And we are back at it again with another great episode of this Revolution Podcast, right? This good political revolution, right? You know, I'm the only news apparatus that's giving you what you really want, what nobody has the courage enough to tell you, right? In a society with all these propaganda media outlets, you don't know which way to go. And fortunately, I'm here to kind of bring you some true and honest information coming in. You understand what I'm saying? Do you dig it? Can you pick up what I'm putting down, right? And I just recorded this killer podcast with former Fire Chief Greg Benson, right? Now, let me just tell you how stupid PAP we are, right? Let me tell you how stupid we are in Port Arthur and the leadership we have in Port Arthur, right? We found a unicorn, right? We got a white unicorn. We found a white man that's not racist, right? Not only that, from my understanding, he was not racist. He was actively saving black and brown lives, right? Saving everybody's lives, right? But in Port Arthur, you have a high black population, a high Latino population, right? So this guy was actually saving black lives in dealing with this Achilleana ambulance service, right? And this ambulance service. But we're going to go ahead and get into that, right? But I'm going to go ahead and give you the podcast. Stay tuned. Yes, we have a very special guest today. We have Mr. Greg Benson, the former police chief of the city of Port Arthur. Sir, can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and go ahead and, open up with pretty much how the atmosphere is when you first got hired on with the city of Port Arthur, please?
Yes, sir. Well, let me just add one thing here. You said police chief, but it's
Oh,
fire
yeah,
chief.
fire chief. I mean, look, I've been ripping and running fire chief. Yes, sir, absolutely. I'm ripping and running, trying to get info on here, looking up different things online. Yes, sir. Pardon me, the
Yeah.
fire chief. A lot of people get those confused.
Yeah. Okay. Well, could you ask me the question again, please?
Oh, yes, sir. No problem. No problem. Yeah, go ahead. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of like just a general opening about yourself. How you came to the city, and kind of just open up with right. Tell us the atmosphere that how it was when you started working at the city, right? Tell us like your experience, like coming into the city, where you open with welcome arms from the fire department, kind of like open up with that, kind of like I'm starting from the beginning of the time frame that you started working with the city.
Sure. Well, the beginning was very interesting. The what I learned, what I saw very early on, was that there was a very strong culture of we've always done it this way.
Right.
And in many cases, that actually fostered a normalization of deviance, which is where doing things wrong or not doing things in a correct manner became the normal. And so when I brought in efforts to begin initiating a transformation from that model of not doing things in a safe and appropriate manner to one that was, let's work to meet state and national standards. I received a lot of pushback from specific individuals, especially Deputy Chief Louis Havens. He was not happy with that.
Okay. Now let's go ahead on and kind of unpack that a little bit, right? So when you
Sure.
so let's kind of take a look back. When you first came in and you started taking the first week of your job, give me some examples of some things that you noticed that were kind of alarming that was going on that's kind of different from other normal operating fire departments.
Sure. Well, one of the things was just a very strong good old boy network, where certain members of the organization had very strong relationships, and they were, just in that, if you're familiar with a good old boy network thing,
Right.
they weren't open to new ideas and that. And looking at some of those things then, and when I started to bring forward some transformational steps in other areas, the good old boy network, they started to push back. And I did notice very early on that the culture in the fire department was very hostile and toxic,
Right.
corrosive, but it was driven by a small number of individuals.
Right.
And
And specifically, let me just stop you. What are some specific things, like, say for instance, like you went over there, you seen people taking lunches too long, you seen people doing things illegal, using the fire trucks to go pick up family members and kids, or what are certain things like, hey, they're having too much fraternization with the ambulance company, or they don't want other ambulance company. What are some specific things that you notice that are kind of like out of the norm of what's supposed to be done, and what's going on over here in Port Arthur that's a little bit different from what you used to from a normal working fire department?
right, well, so there's a few things that you mentioned there. One was that there was a very strong relationship between some members of the department um, and Acadian Ambulance, and in a couple of instances, I'll say I heard a person say, "I love Acadian,"
Right.
and so that was one of the things that was, fostered uh, that culture, but didn't look to say, hey, there are criteria that they're supposed to be meeting, and yet nobody had been holding them accountable for that.
Okay.
So
Let's
that
go.
in itself was kind of a problem.
Okay, let's stop there. Right. When
Yes,
you
sir.
let's go ahead and we can jump into the Acadian thing. So what did you notice from Acadian ambulance service that was wrong? Right, that was pretty much detrimental to citizens. Like, for instance, we go ahead and tell us about the ambulance times that we kind of given a little bit on the news. Kind of start with the ambulance response times, and start give us a little details about some other things that were problematic with Acadian, and some things that didn't meet the national standard.
Sure. Well, just so you know, and I can't get too far into the details because I don't have the exact data in front of me, if you will.
Right, that's good.
But
Right.
the thing that was that I started tracking was, what is the process? What's the response time for Acadian? What did the ordinance say that they were supposed to be meeting? And then what were the national standards and how were those, were those being met or not? And then also I put out communication to the department that any of the officers should provide specific instances to the first responder organization or the medical group, which consisted of 3 people in the department. So if they had a prolonged response time, they should let the FRO group know, hey, on this particular night at this time, Acadian had a prolonged response time of, X number of minutes. And then those things started to get looked at too. And more of that kind of started to open up that compliance wasn't being met. And then also looking at some of the data that they were submitting, some of it wasn't in consistency with the data that we had at the city. So there were some problems with some of that. And that led itself to bringing up, and there was specific calls. There was one call where it was a cardiac arrest call,
right?
And that particular incident, Acadian reported initial response coming from Lumberton, and the ambulance got changed on the way, and whenever the ambulance got there, it was approximately 25-minute ETA, but in the data that we got from them, they said they got there in 4 minutes and 47 seconds or something like that.
Wow.
So started to look at that, and that patient, they didn't make it.
Right. Right.
And so then started to look more and more into that stuff. And also then I found that early on too, that the interim fire chief, who's the same interim fire chief now, he had not previously been monitoring the performance on a monthly basis as required in the ordinance.
This is
so.
Right.
I'm sorry?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Right, something with the I was doing some computer. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So then more and more of that kind of came out, and those topics were actually presented to Acadian too. I mean, I have no problem with having, in some cases they can be difficult conversations, but I would bring up to them that, hey, because we had monthly QA, QI meetings, quality assurance, quality improvement meetings.
Right.
And I would bring up to them that, okay, it was reported that, on this date, at this call, this is what was reported. Let them come back with, whatever the situation was or whatever they found.
Okay. So basically you're pretty much responding to complaints, right? You're having complaints from citizens, and you also know some inaccuracies in the numbers, right? And
yes,
and from my understanding, it's the fire department's job to kind of like oversee or kind of just keep an eye on the emergency response and kind of keep up with the numbers for that. Is that correct? Am I correct in that assessment?
Yes, sir. Yes. Now there's the city ordinance for emergency medical vehicles. It does provide that's there's specific criteria, and that's the intent of that. So the fire department is supposed to monitor that. And a lot of the data, there was no data analysis or review being done prior to me starting to do that. And that's when I started to look and identify that there was inaccuracies and non-compliance that was then brought up. And in all cases, you know, in every scenario, there's always room for improvements.
Right. So
And so,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
no, I was just going to, there's always room for improvement. So bringing it forward to them, then, you know, how can it be improved?
Right.
But then what did emerge was that Acadian was not, they did not have any designated units for the city of Port Arthur. They were using the strategic system management model, which they move ambulances around all the time based on specific, you know, what their data is showing them, and making sure that they have an ambulance, you know, up in Lumberton or whatever, you know.
Right. Right. And I'm pretty sure Port Arthur's probably one of the bigger contracts for them, and they didn't have, and they don't, and they didn't have a dedicated ambulance service to us. Like, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, also, I did some benchmarking, and David, this was also presented to City Council.
Right.
And I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of benchmarking.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. You kind of. Yeah. I understand what that is.
Yeah, yeah. So I did benchmarking, and there was, I want to say, another 13 cities in the state that had populations that were, you know, similar to Port Arthur's, and looked at the EMS calls for those, and Port Arthur had the highest level of EMS calls out of all of those communities.
Right.
So and then looked at more of this information, and it became obvious that the for a lot of different reasons, the needs in the city really were greater than many other cities.
Right.
And so having an appropriate EMS system in there to take care of these people when they called 911 was a critical thing that I worked to implement, and then also to track for accountability.
Right. 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 And let me just kind of harp on that. Right. For the people that are listening, I want the citizens that listen to understand here, right? To kind of take in what you've just said, right? You've had a problem. You were having problem with response times. So you did some benchmarking to kind of see was to get some data, right? To get some data and to see where the city is going on as far as like these different calls or whatnot. And you notice that Port Arthur receives a higher amount of some of these calls. And so obviously, right, it doesn't take a rocket science to understand. With Port Arthur receiving a high amount of these calls, it would be advantageous for the city if we had an actual ambulance that was dedicated to the city. Is that correct? Am I kind of going in the right area of what I'm saying?
You are.
Okay.
You are.
Okay.
Now that is one of the things that was actually brought up and discussed, that having a dedicated ambulance, and at some point, and this is where the most effective model in the fire and EMS service is having just that. That's why a lot of fire departments are fire/rescue.
Right.
So having an ambulance at every fire station and having the two crews work together is the most effective model for providing that service.
Right.
And then also you also want to put into place what's called emergency medical dispatching, or EMD, and that is when somebody calls, they call 911, you know, the 911 operator, they're going to answer the phone. 911, what's the address of your emergency? What type of emergency? And then the EMD process, they will ask some questions based on what you talked about or what you answered. and then they'll categorize that call all the way from what's considered an alpha call
Right.
to an echo call. And an alpha call, I always refer to it as like a stubbed toe, and an
Right.
echo call is cardiac arrest.
Right. Right. From the minimalist of problems to life threatening. Gotcha on
Yes,
that.
sir.
Gotcha. And another
Yep.
thing I want to get the citizens to understand, right? We had a fire department that was pretty much, well, I'm just kind of give a little bit of the history to this, right? Most of the you have a lot of the fire department personnel, right? They either lived in Bridge City for a minute, either still living in Bridge City, moved from Bridge City to here because they had their political action committee, right? They had a pack that was basically out of Bridge City. And we always found that kind of strange, right? A lot of people in the council back then, hey, why y'all have a lot of, people living in Bridge City, and I believe they had some stats one time, right, of the civil service jobs that they didn't have a lot of most of the jobs went outside the city of Port Arthur to different areas like, Bridge City. And they had a low number of people from Port Arthur being hired at the fire department. So, we've always had a lot of issues with the fire department. They've had, they used to buy politicians through the political action committees and get a lot of favors through through their the contracts. They're getting the contracts, and they even had a big issue of a boat, right? They had recently have like a fire boat for whatever reason. Don't know why they've gotten has like a boat when the Coast Guard's supposed to take care of any type of water issues is going on over there. So, we've had a lot of politics going on with the city and also, more particularly with the fire department. You had some other things with the civil service, with the police department. They had another city manager come down and wreak havoc on the police department, and that's kind of, just recovering from shambles. And now, with your experiences, like you said, that actual good old boy system. And I want to reiterate to the citizens why this good old boy this good old boy system is not good for the citizens, right? Because it's putting people's lives in danger, right? I know you did an interview with Mr. Delfino, if I'm not mistaken. I know I'm chopping his name up, and he actually had a family that was on there that was on the news kind of crying, right? They were crying, complaining about the actual ambulance response time from Acadian. And also, I just did a quick little search on YouTube, right? It seems like Acadian Ambulance has a problem, not only in Port Arthur. They had an issue in Vidor over a year ago when a young lady had a child with a medical emergency. For some reason, it took them a long time to respond to that. They also had an issue in Crowley, Louisiana, where they're having poor response time. So it seems to be, it's just my opinion, right? Everything I'm saying is purely my opinion, and I'm speculating that there is some kind of management issue, turnover issue going on in Acadian where they can't really do their job to the best of their ability. And not only that, it seems to me that they want to try to bully and keep the contract. They feel like they're entitled to keep the contract and say, hey, screw everybody, screw the citizens. So I just want to touch in on that point. Not having a dedicated ambulance service is putting people's lives in danger, right? And that's what you have going on. And I want to say what you were doing is greatly appreciated. The people don't know it right now, right? Because you were wanting to put in, you seen a system that was broken. The system that was broken where they even falsified documents, right? Falsified government documents, probably most likely legal documents, right? Because if anything happens, you go to court, those are going to be legal documents. They're falsifying this stuff also to hide from any kind of mismanagement, any type of dangerous situation that they're putting the citizens in. And I've heard something else, right? They've actually had the fire trucks try to go ahead and cover for some of the ambulance. Can you tell me more about that? Have you heard that?
Yes, but so the Port Arthur is a first responder organization, that FRO, and they respond, but they don't transport.
Right.
And so, when somebody would call, then they would respond to the scene, but they had to wait until Acadian arrived on scene then to initiate a transport.
Right, right. So basically, they're just from what it seems to me, right? It seems like the fire trucks are just getting over there just to say, "Hey, I'm respond. I actually respond in a certain amount of time." Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay. Go ahead.
well, and so that's another thing with the emergency medical dispatch concept, that the, uh, the model out there is, if you've got a stub toe, you don't need to have the I'll refer to it as the BRT, the big red truck. You don't have to have the BRT respond.
Right. Right.
Just have the ambulance, and have the ambulance go there in a non-emergency mode.
Right.
And then you then have another resource, so that, because this has happened, um, I've experienced it, but I've seen it numerous times. I mean, back when I was on the box back in the day, you get somebody get a stub toe, and then 3 minutes later they'd get a call for a cardiac arrest or a shooting victim or whatever.
Right.
So then you had to have units from farther out respond in. So it's a more effective manner to use the emergency response resources, and it increases the reliability of the resources for an important, the next call, if you will.
Right.
So,
So
yeah.
so after finding out all of these discrepancies was going on with the ambulance service, and who did you all report that to? Which individuals did you report? Well, first, no, before we get there, tell me about the conversations that you had with Acadian. How about those conversations when you were bringing up, hey, we have these problems. We need you to get better. We need you to do this. We need you to do that. What were their response to some of the things that you were bringing up? Tell me about the conversation, please.
Well, and in many cases, um, the conversations were intended to be a positive thing, and
Right.
they would say, "Well, okay, let me look into this. We'll look into this and find out what exactly happened." And in some cases, they did and got back to us, but in other cases, they didn't necessarily do that or do it in a timely manner. So, but the intent of that was to seek those opportunities for improvement, and but at the same time, they had to be held accountable according to the ordinance. So that was you know, how do hey, you need to improve, but also you need to meet the monthly compliance standards, uh, and so
Oh,
how do you work that, um, but always seeking a way to improve things, because that has a direct impact on people's lives.
right, absolutely. And what did they say? Like, hey, for instance, like you tell them, we need you to improve by the standards of the monthly standards to the national standard, right? So you're consistently not doing this, okay? Then what would they tell you after they've looked into it and they come back? What would they tell you?
Well, There were some Acadian employees that were very open to how can we make things better, and I'll say there are other Acadian employees that continued to push back on things. So, bring up different situations, and some of them would be, okay, we will work to improve this.
Okay.
And in other situations, they'd be, no, that wasn't a problem. We did this or this, even though the data doesn't show that.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And there was,
Let's go ahead and get to it on the pushbacks. Tell me a situation where, you said this, they pushed back and the data didn't happen. The reason why I want to get really into the weeds so the citizens can understand exactly what you were doing. You were helping the citizens out. You were trying to save their lives, so to speak, in getting a compliant EMS ambulance service.
yes. And well, unfortunately, some of these things are literally, months and years ago. So I can't remember all the details on some of the things.
Right. Yeah, we don't need the exact details.
Yeah.
Like if you know like a certain topic. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just going to say, but, we did have situations, we would, during that monthly QA/QI meeting, bring these things up and then ask them, how things were going to be improved, and then look at it and see what they did in subsequent to that, but then continue to track it. And one of the key things, though, is that that call where they had the extended response time, and when that was brought up, they were not, the one individual was not open to acknowledging that there was a problem there. So always just trying to work, I'll say, using objective information to say, here's the data, here's the information from the crews, the Port Arthur fire crews that were on the scene, and we need to address this because it does have a very significant impact on the health and safety of residents.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Now, let's kind of shift gears a little bit, right? So now you've kind of given us examples of when you've talked to Acadian and some of the things. Oh, one more thing. Were you talking to employees or were you talking to management over there at Acadian?
Talking to management. The management was the group that attended our monthly QA/QI meetings.
Okay, all right. That's what I was assuming. Okay, cool.
Yes.
And when okay, and now when you tell me exactly like now what did you bring up and who did you bring up the problem to for like the city of Port Arthur? So like you have, hey, I have these problems with the Acadian not giving ambulance times, they're falsifying these times and being misleading about these times. Who did you bring it up to and what did they tell you?
Well, I began to bring up those issues to the city manager because that's who I reported to.
Okay, Ron Burton.
And then, yes, and then he asked or directed me to start to talk with legal to see about the compliance with the ordinance and things like that.
Right. Okay. And who did you talk to in legal?
Well, I talked to
Val,
the former Val,
Val
the former
Tisno.
city attorney.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I talked to numerous people in legal. Mr. Joseph Sanders.
Okay.
Ms. Sherry Vital.
Right.
There's some other folks in there that they're not attorneys per se, but they were able to. I had conversations and because I always wanted to ensure
Right.
that whatever we were doing was not only ethically right, but
Right.
legally
Legally
right.
right. Ethically, legally,
So,
and safe. Right.
yes, correct. And so it wasn't uncommon where I would bring up something and even give them what I'd say I consider a draft to have them take a look at it and see, does this meet legal requirements? Do you see an ethical issue with it?
And what do they
And
say?
if they, well, and sometimes there would be, hey, you know what, we need to change this word, or, take out this sentence, whatever it was, but it was always intended to, how do we, how can I improve what's going to be then put out to ensure that it's going to be the most appropriate for addressing the situation.
Okay.
And
So they. Let me just kind of stop. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm gonna be kind of
no,
stopping you in and out
yeah,
trying to
no
make sure
problem.
that the citizens, the adversaries can understand what's going
Yeah,
on. And
yeah.
so basically, you was going to legal to complain, or you was going so they can help you draft the letter to send to Acadian.
Yes, sir. That's what I was doing.
Okay, which one?
Yes.
Oh, both of
And
them. Okay, so you complained to
no,
them.
I not no, I wasn't there to complain to them. I was there to collaborate with legal to
Oh, gotcha.
help develop the most appropriate document to
Right.
forward.
Hold on. I'm sorry.
Were would come in from time to time. But again, it's an iterative process, and working to, again, here's the goal we need to attain. Um, I didn't get when I use the word objective and subjective, I didn't get my emotions involved in, well, you don't like what I wrote, so I'm going to be mad about that. Heck no.
Right. Hello. Hold on for a second. Hold on for a second. Yeah, I apologize. I'm having some little audio issues, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No problem. No. And one of the examples, I'll say one of the most recent examples was that it was determined that Acadian did not meet compliance, and that they were then subject to notification of liquidated damages. And so I had a conversation with Mr. Sanders to identify what types of things should be put in the letter, and kind of I'll say a little formatting. And then I put something together, and then sat down with him, and he reviewed it and said, here, we need to change this. You should add this. This part's fine. And at the end of the day, I continued to ask multiple individuals to make sure that the letter was not subjective, but it was very designed to be objective in seeking meeting the compliance, but also here's what you need to do, and it was done in a professional manner.
Right.
And then after a few times of review, he legal gave me the thumbs up, and it was sent to Acadia.
Okay. Now let's go ahead and fast forward. Like, what was the actual breaking point where the city manager, the council, everybody was on board with you going ahead and spearheading getting a new ambulance service?
Well, a lot of these things where it was brought forward that Acadian didn't have designated ambulances in the city, and with the number of incidents that we had, I made a recommendation that we in the city look to bring in a second service, so that we had what I referred to as depth on the bench and redundancy.
Right.
And that's when city ambulance submitted their application. And one of the differences with city ambulances, they have dedicated ambulances in the city. They weren't looking to run to Lumberton and Orange and everything else. They were only providing service in the city. So their ambulances are dedicated in the city, which helps to improve the response times and the service levels.
Okay, so let me go ahead and get this straight. So city ambulance service is only working in the city of Port Arthur. Is that correct?
Well, they have other contracts in the state of Texas, but in this area, they are only, yes, they are.
Oh, in this area, they're only in Port Arthur.
Yes,
in this,
only serving in, yes.
Okay.
They're only serving in Port Arthur, Texas here.
Okay, in the southeast state. Okay, that's good. That's good. I didn't know this. So I just want to reiterate to the citizens again. We have Acadian ambulance service that's going all the way up to Lumberton, within the Golden Triangle, different areas, and they have to share those ambulances throughout the region. While we have city ambulance services that's only in this southeast Texas area, is only dedicated in Port Arthur. So I need to go ahead and explain this, right? Because people do not know how serious of a problem this is, right? Now we have Acadian ambulance service. Now we have city ambulance service that's strictly responding to the city of Port Arthur. They don't have to go all the way to Lumberton, Koontz, Dallas, wherever that Acadian is servicing or they have other contracts. City ambulance service is in the city of Port Arthur, and this is important because they save lives. This is undisputed evidence. So any type of propaganda that anybody tries to put out there, it's just crazy. Now, what's your opinion, right? To people like me and you and the other smart individuals that's in the know, that understands this, knows that this is the right thing to do and this is the smart thing to do. Why do you think, in your opinion, I'm going to speculate too, but what's your opinion that you believe that people are so much against this? Like you had the previous police chief do some investigative service, I think according to Mr. Dosafino, then spied on you in his conversation, right? What do you think is the main motivation that you have people are so adamant that want to get Acadian back in here when we know that they provided a poor and inferior product and service?
Well, a little bit of that I think goes to a cultural thing, and also that there were very tight relationships with command staff members of Port Arthur Fire Department and members of Acadian Ambulance.
Right.
So you have that good old buddy system that works across multiple venues, if you will. And that model, if you will, was one of these things that we need to collaborate, but we also need to make sure that any contractor is actually being held accountable for the contract criteria that they agreed to. And so some of that, I'll give you an example here.
Right.
When I started, Deputy Chief Havens was the president of the Sabine Neches Chiefs Association, and Acadian Ambulance was also a member, or is also a member of that organization.
Right.
But they provided a lot of assistance and support, financial support for that. And so I observed some things where, one of the members of Acadian would really seem to lean the Deputy Chief Havens and this other member, they seem to lean pretty hard together.
Right.
And so it a lot of this, just to be clear, a lot of the issue, it's not with all of the members in the Port Arthur Fire Department.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
The members, what I refer to as the boots on the ground. Those are the guys in the BRT, going out and doing the work. They're doing the hard work, and they are providing the service, but a lot of the implications or a lot of the problems were coming from key people in command staff positions because of relationships. So, and I don't know if have you ever heard of Peter Drucker?
Peter Drucker, not right off, but go ahead.
Well, Peter Drucker, he was a big kind of a business guru back in the 60s, 70s. He came up with a little saying that says that culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Right. Yeah, I get you. Right.
Yes. And so here's the thing, and what he had determined was that culture is way stronger than any other factor in an organization. So when you have an organization that has a toxic, hostile culture, or one that wants to just focus on a specific contractor, then anything that you try to do to change that is going to be met with significant pushback.
Right. Right, absolutely. And I'm glad you stated that because whenever I try to do my advocacy, right, I always try to reiterate that it's more than it's just one person, it's more than it's just one council. You have these departments, it's corrupt like cancer, right? You have cancer within these departments where you have to start weeding and plucking, cutting out the cancer in order for this to get better, right? And just like with a cancer, when you start plucking out the rotten, corrupted flesh, right, out of a living person or department, it's going to have some weakness. So you're going to have to rehab that weakness. In this case, like the fire department, you're going to have to do what you have to do so it can get better and, be able to sustain and get stronger and operates on its own, right? So I'm glad you stated, and this culture has the potential and have put people's lives in danger, right? People have died because of, in my opinion, right, I'm stating this, probably some pay-to-play politics, some kickbacks, and some bribes are being handed out, right? And I'm speculating this because it is no reason that any person smarter than the fifth grade can understand if you have an ambulance service that's providing services to you and cannot meet the national standard, have to be removed and get another company in that can handle the job, right? And Port Arthur has specific needs, right? We have a lot of things going on where we need a specific ambulance service within the city, right? So just like you said, I kind of pulled it up. Culture eat strategy for breakfast. Now I appreciate you bringing this to me, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of look up Mr. Drucker and kind of see if I can learn a few cues from him and learn some information as far as what it deals with the city of Port Arthur. So bringing this to them, right? Well, tell me this. I remember you said. Let me see. I think I remember you said you were bringing, when I was talking to you before, right, that you've brought some things to all the city managers and you didn't get any response. What can you tell us a little bit about that? What were you bringing up, if I kind of remember correctly?
Yes. There was one of the things that was recently brought up was that on the 12th of April, I received a formal complaint from Mr. Andre Ruby, who's the vice president at City Ambulance,
Right.
against Deputy Chief Louis Havens, because he had been contacted by Acadian to do to find out about doing a transport from the med center to someplace else. And Acadian does not have a permit in the city right now.
Right.
So the ordinance as it's written is that you can drop somebody off in the city without a permit, but you can't pick them up without a permit. And there is an exemption in there where the ability or where the fire chief has the ability to make an exemption if it's an emergency situation. Well, Deputy Chief Havens approved them doing that, and he did not have the authority to do that.
Wow.
And so that initiated a formal complaint, which was the complaint was received on April 12th, very late in the afternoon. That's a Friday. So Monday morning on the 15th, I forwarded it off to the city manager, to legal, to the police chief, several other people. And I did have a follow-up meeting with a person in legal who suggested that we needed to have a meeting with the city manager. So I sent him an email saying that legal has suggested that we have a meeting to discuss this. Never received a response back from the city manager.
Wow. What about the other city managers? Did you forward anything to them, or you didn't forward anything to them?
No, it was forwarded to at least one of the other city managers.
Okay.
But there was never any response back.
Okay.
So now it's kind of questionable, I'll say. So there's a formal complaint filed against this individual, and when the city manager terminates me, he makes that individual the interim fire chief.
Right.
But yet no investigation has been conducted to find out if it's a legitimate allegation or not.
Right.
And then the other question is that why did a person from Acadian specifically call Deputy Chief Havens when they could have, if they actually had an issue, they could have called our dispatch, who then could have contacted me to see if it would be, allowable or not.
Right. You're the chief, right? Everything,
right,
at least should go through you. And
yes.
And again, to go ahead and recap for the citizens, right? Tell us about the transport. Transports, these are things that ambulance company would like to do, right? You just taking one person from the hospital, bring them to another hospital or an elderly home or something like that, right? Those things, transports are more coveted than 911 calls. Is that correct?
Yes, they are. Yeah. It's not uncommon. They'll sometimes the transports are referred to as interfacility transports.
Right.
IFTs, so go from nursing home X, over to the hospital, or from the hospital over to nursing home X,
Right.
Or whatever the case is. But it's those interfacility IFTs that's where ambulance companies tend to, they make more money doing that than they do on 911 calls.
Right.
So,
and that's crazy. And that's crazy because you have city ambulance with a lot of ambulance that's dedicated to the city. So it shouldn't be a problem pulling one of those ambulance to go ahead and do the transport. But no, hey, Acadian probably say, hey, look, we are hurting out here. We need some more money. Can you give us a couple of quick in and out jobs? So, they go ahead and get the chief was named Robert Havens or Louis Havens?
Well, his name is
Robert.
Robert.
Okay, but they call him Louis.
Robert Louis.
Robert
Havens.
Louis. Okay.
His official name is
Robert. Okay.
He's known as Louis.
Right. Okay.
So,
Gotcha. So, they probably call him, hey, Louis, can you go ahead and hook me up with a couple of transport jobs?
Yes.
And again, that shows how illegal this is, right? They don't
Yes.
have a permit. It's a violation of the charter. The man should be reprimanded. Louis Havens, he should be reprimanded for it, right? Because it's no excuse for him to go over to you, right? Go over your authority. Go ahead and do an illegal act, right? And that's the problem I'm trying to reiterate to the citizens. We have so much corruption going on to where it goes to the civil service, right? It already hit the Port Arthur Police Department. Now it's hitting over the fire department, and the corruption is so bad that it's putting citizens' lives in danger. I'm going to keep reiterating that through the process so citizens can go ahead and get that through them. And most of these people in the corrupt good old boy don't really live in Port Arthur, right? And now on your other video, right? Or not your video, but the other interview you did with Mr. Dosafino, right? They've stated something about some paid trips, Acadian paid trips. Can you go ahead and kind of elaborate on what were you talking about in that?
Yes. This was just mentioned to me in a confidential manner when I first came here.
Right.
That and this was by members of the department that Acadian may have provided the previous fire chief Larry Richard with some trips to different places.
Oh yeah, I can believe that.
And I mean, again, it was said confidentially, so I'm not going to throw anybody out there.
Oh no, absolutely. You don't have to put anybody's names out there. I just want what's been said. You don't have to say who. And I understand fully because I get a lot of information that I keep confidential, and people wouldn't believe who and where gives me the information. So I definitely have to keep that confidential myself if I want to keep providing the truth of what's going on out there to the citizens. So yeah, absolutely. Yes. And man, the citizens need to understand, I'm talking right here. You have this corrupt organization when you have the Barties, right? You have the mayor. In my opinion, he wants to do some criminal stuff. So to get the support of the fire department, him and the city manager, he has to let him do some corrupt stuff, right? So now you have city manager, he wants to get some favors in. He wants to get some money, right? I want to get my hustle on so he can go ahead and let the mayor act like he runs the city, but this is a council manager form of government, right? So when you have these crazy things like office of the mayor, right? You have letters and proclamations coming from the office of the mayor. There's no such thing. It's no such thing as out of order. Anytime you hear that the mayor has a collaboration with the homeless department, right? Port City Missions. Anytime you have the mayor talking about we having a partnership, it has to come by the way of a resolution, right? And the resolution, you can pull that up, it'll be on council, and all the council members will vote on it. The mayor cannot do anything by himself, only in one exception. That's in the case of an emergency management conflict, right? That's when he has the actual voted on by council to temporarily, reign and kind of do what he wants. Now, if I remember correctly, right? Don't quote me on this. When we had a previous mayor before Bartie, and we had the storm for Harvey, I believe they switched one of the officers that was the main emergency management person with Mr. Havens, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe he had the job temporarily of emergency management, but he kind of screwed everything over, and we start having a whole lot of problems Well, we had to give it back to what I think was Major Owens back then. I know this is before your time. I'm just kind of,
Yeah.
talking, for the citizens. So
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, he was the temporary emergency management person where they had all of this emergency process in shambles, where they had to go back to Major Owens. And that was ultimately the downfall of Derek Freeman, right? The previous mayor, and which has let actual Thurman Bartie be the current mayor, right? Or that was the main reason why they want him to be a current mayor, while Freeman was the one and done mayor first term. Now, that's what led to Bartie getting it. So understand, people, corruption only harms you. It threatens your property with not being able to do the right thing with the emergency management process. It also happens with your life, like with this ambulance service right here, right? So let me kind of jump over to tell us about the tuberculosis situation, right? They had, I remember getting on the word, right? I remember getting the word about, hey, they got a letter. Somebody sent me the letter, right? If I'm not mistaken, they had two letters. That's an in-depth letter, and the other one kind of like an overview letter, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that, and what was the issue with hiding what's going on with the tuberculosis?
Well, yeah, that came up in early March, I want to say, and it was brought up uh, from the Med Center, provided to Andre Ruby, that the Med Center had seen an uptick or a spike in people that were having tuberculosis symptoms. And so, and one of the groups, I'll say, that was having more of these symptoms was
Right.
some of the homeless people.
Oh, some of the homeless people having like an uptick of
Yeah.
of tuberculosis. Okay.
Right. Well, that was what was reported. So then that was brought up. It was brought up. Also, and I provided the information that Mr. Ruby forwarded to me. I forwarded it to the city manager. I forwarded it to the health department director, and let them know what was going on. Well, then the health department director and the city manager, they came back and said, no, this is inaccurate. So, well, this is the information that we got from the medical center, and why isn't this wanting to be shared with the community?
Okay. I'm sorry. So, who said it was inaccurate?
The director of the health department.
Right. Yes, I forgot her name. I forgot. It's on the tip me. So, when you brought this up to the health department, she's telling you it's inaccurate, right?
Yes.
When the actual medical center is the one that's telling you, hey, we have these people right here, right now. And I know the medical center keeps records of their own cells, right? They keep records of different types of infectious diseases, especially health related things like tuberculosis, right?
Yes.
And they're telling
Yes.
you, hey, city ambulance, we have an actual uptick in tuberculosis. So now you report that to the health department. Now they want to keep quiet. So basically, what city ambulance service and you are doing, you are trying to help save people's lives in Port Arthur, right? And
Yes.
these dirty crooks, these dirty dogs, right? I'm speaking right now. Pardon my French, pardon my African, pardon me. But these dirty dogs, these crooks, actually, I believe they will let people die. They will let Port Arthur citizens die for money, kickbacks, or bribes. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were saying why they wouldn't let this out to the people. Go ahead.
Well, and that's, even, even if people didn't agree that there was and I'll say a potential spike in TB, because you have to really get a full diagnosis to determine. But when people come in and they've got symptoms, then letting that out to the public, though, I thought was valuable so that the public could then be more aware and make sure that they didn't, one, put themselves in a position, or two, if one of them or their family members started to have something that they needed to get follow-up on.
Right.
So, and and then from that, it ended up, oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I think that we had then the city manager and the mayor requested that we have a meeting with city ambulance.
Right.
I think that meeting was on March 5th. So the TB thing was actually earlier in February.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
But city ambulance, Mr. Ruby, he couldn't be here in the city. So it was a virtual meeting. And both the city manager was not happy with some of the stuff.
He was not happy as far as what being reported, being let out. What was he not happy with?
Yeah, he was not happy with it being reported. He also, in a very highly toxic, hostile, loud voice, he threatened me by saying, "If you don't follow chain of command, I'll fire you. You need to follow chain of command, or I'll fire you." And
right, so he threatened to fire you simply because you were kind of bringing some information to the health department and other people about a tuberculosis spike, right? And you you didn't have any malice with it. You were just saying, hey, there's some things that's going on in the community. Hey, because I think I can't remember, I heard it from you or somewhere else. Port Arthur is a high poverty town, right? So a lot of people are not going to have health insurance, right? So a lot of people do I've done it before. Hey, I have a cold. I'm going to go take a lot of vitamin C, some water, and some rest. I'm going to kind of stick it out, right? If I don't think it's COVID, I'm going to stick it out. I heard some people, hey, if I have COVID, I'm going to stick it out. So since you have these tuberculosis symptoms, right? Tuberculosis, flu, common cold, COVID, if from my understanding, have similar type symptoms, right? Some person may have tuberculosis, not thinking there's something else, not really go to the ER, go to urgent care because they don't have the money, they don't have any insurance. Why? And they just say, hey, I don't need these bills. I'm gonna just go ahead and do some home remedy stuff, right? And they may have tuberculosis and they can spread it, right?
Yes. And so, one of the things that I've found looking at the the Census Bureau data is that they identified that in round numbers, 28% of the population in Port Arthur that's under 65 does not have health insurance.
Right.
And that is in comparison to the state, which is, I want to say, around 16%. So there is a much higher number of people, to your point, in the city of Port Arthur that don't have health insurance. So they won't, and this is a scary thing.
Yes.
In many cases, they won't seek any assistance or any help until they reach a more critical, I got to call 911 situation, because they don't have insurance per se.
Right, absolutely. They don't have insurance. They don't have insurance. And since these council members, they sell you out in a job, so the work is scarce. So if I'm poor, if I'm in poverty, I have to go to all of these. I can't miss any work. So I can't miss any work if I have COVID. If I have a cold, hell, if I have tuberculosis, most of the time, a lot of people in poverty are going to risk their health just so they can obtain some type of finances or keeping their jobs, or don't want to get threatened by the boss. Hey, you keep missing in more days, look, you're fired. And then you have a lot of turnaround people, right? So, people here and out of town, they'll come here and try to, hey, if they sick or not, they're gonna go ahead and come to work, sick, tuberculosis, cold, flu, COVID, whatever, right? They're gonna come here, try to get that money because contract to work, hey, you be out, you may work for 2 weeks, maybe off for a month before the next job. So if that person will probably rather risk coming to work, to get their money because, hey, I don't know when the next job's coming versus staying home, right? And this is a real problem. So when you trying to tell the citizens, hey, this is something that's out there, be aware. You just might have to wear the mask a little bit more. You just might not have to be in everybody's face. Just be aware. And you city ambulance are doing this just on the simple fact trying to save citizens' lives.
Yes, and that just whatever we can do to enhance that level of safety and awareness for people, and some of that was. Are you familiar with the hands-only CPR?
No.
Oh, well, that was one of the things that. So
Well, I can imagine
Port
what it is
Arthur,
from the name, but yes, go ahead.
Yeah, well, one of the things with Port Arthur is we have in Port Arthur there's a higher number of cardiac arrests than nationwide,
Right.
in a percentage base. So when I recognize that, and the FRO group brought forward potential for getting what's they're called auto pulses. They're automatic CPR devices.
Right.
And then so we were able to purchase 2 of those, and then also we started to provide classes for people in the city for a hands-only CPR device, or not device, but capability. Sorry. And the hands-only CPR, it's just, a lot of people don't like to do CPR on somebody else, especially if they don't know them. Because
absolutely, yes.
Back in the day, they didn't want to lock lips with somebody.
Right.
But what science has found is that if you do hands-only CPR, in other words, just pump their chest, that we have enough latent oxygen in our blood that as long as it's flowing, that we have the potential of higher levels of survival if other invasive actions are taken within 6 minutes.
Right.
So that was part of the problem too with response. But what we saw was when added the 2 auto pulses, saw the actual survival rate of people in cardiac arrest go up about 30%. So,
right.
But then also teaching people how to do hands-only CPR, so that because they say like 70% of cardiac arrests, they happen at home.
Right. Yes.
And so does somebody at home know how to do CPR if, grandpa goes into cardiac arrest? And, or if they're, if they're walking, they're in Walmart and all of a sudden a person in front of them falls over and they're in cardiac arrest. They know what to do. And doing that for those 6 minutes before the BRT gets there, that increases the likelihood or the potential, I'll say, for survival. Now, just so you know, there's no guarantee, because sometimes people go into cardiac arrest because they have a mechanical problem with their heart.
Right.
Which, but still, no, we've seen a significant uptick in people surviving cardiac arrest, and it was very, when we got the auto pulse initially, and they're interesting devices, but it takes time for people to transform into using them.
Yeah.
But the guys, the boots on the ground, they were seeing this, and it was making a big difference. So that's just one of those. That's just one of those things, though. But what it has a positive impact if somebody has a cardiac arrest situation. But you got to look at it from the big picture. I'll say here you got a lot of people who have, they have medical issues. They don't have insurance. They're under 65, so they're not eligible for Medicare.
Right.
And they're waiting until something really bad is happening before they're taking action, which then creates more of a challenge for the boots on the ground. But it also makes ambulance response time very critical.
Right. And first off, I just want to say I salute you, because I was talking to other people, right? Doing the research on different things. I was talking to different people, former, current council members, and they had said, right, from that program you talk about, the CPR, and also you've been to some town home meetings, right? You've been out in the community more so than Rich has had his whole career here, right? Up that line, that's what they told me. They say you've been out here in the community more so than the previous person, right? And from what I've heard, right, the previous chief captain, they say he coming here any time he wants to, 11 o'clock. They say sometime he takes long lunch breaks and it's being at his house in Port Neches, right? I don't know where he live. They say he live in Port Neches. I don't know. But, I'm hearing all of these things, right? You coming here to do a job. You coming here to make changes with the job, right? That's how bad the corruption is, right? This city will never grow because you have qualified people coming in from out of town. Heck, you have qualified people in town that can't get the position, or when they're doing the right thing, even so much so right as you trying to save lives, pointed out an issue where people were dying. People have died because of the ambulance service not being able to get to them, right? I call them a killer ambulance service. That's my opinion, right? We had this killer ambulance service over here for so long. People dying, we not knowing nothing about it unless you're the actual victim that's dealing with this, right? You come over here, you make this problem. Hey, look, the numbers are being fudged. They're fudging the numbers. They're lying about this. They have the fire departments going over there and reporting, right? Hey, they reporting they've been there, 7 seconds, 1 second, under 8 minutes, but they can't transport you in a fire truck, right? They have to wait till the ambulance to get there, which probably comes about 22 minutes or 30 minutes later, right? So we have people dying, kids are getting harmed, dying because of this service. You bring it out there. You have dramatically changed the aspect, and I'm pretty sure you're saving people's lives because we have a dedicated ambulance service for this, right? So I don't see how anybody cannot understand the information that we're bringing to you, and what some people want to underestimate it, what you've meant to the city. In this short time that you've been here, you, in my opinion, you are responsible for saving more lives. Because I know people have to understand, you have people on council, right? You have people that's in these positions, like the fire department, that don't necessarily live here. They don't necessarily have a connection to Port Arthur, right? Don't really like people in Port Arthur. They don't even hire a lot of people in the fire department from Port Arthur, right? So they end up having this attitude, hey, I'm going to do what I want to, screw the citizens of Port Arthur. And hey, now the city was blessed, right? The city was blessed to have you come in and you can get along with anybody, right? For what I'm hearing, you get along with a diverse group of people, including minorities. So that's a big plus for us, right? And not only you can get along with a myriad of group of people, including minorities, you have been actually assisted in saving people's lives. I just have to keep reiterating that because it's so important. Just like you say, it's scary. I understand it's scary. I've been following this politics for about 10 or 12 years. I understand that you have council members, mayors that will hide behind the Lord, right? Use the Lord's name in vain. And then they will actually kill you. They will let you die. They will let you die. They will let you delete yourself. They will kill you. They will do whatever in the name of a kickback or bribe. And that's my opinion. And can you kind of give us, and I also heard from that other interview, Mr. Dosafino, right, that the DA was doing some kind of investigation from what you understand, right? What type of investigation, or is there one, is there being an Acadian ambulance service?
Well, I don't know the answer to that, but if I could, let me just add a few things to
Yeah.
stuff that you
Oh,
mentioned.
yes, sir. Go ahead.
One, I, I've always worked to interact, get out in the community,
Right.
and that, and it doesn't matter what group of people it is.
Right.
Being able to, meet them, talk to them. I would, in some cases, I'd ask them, well, hey, do you have working smoke detectors? I don't
Right.
know. Well, you just call us and we'll have somebody come out and check them for you. But just the overall interaction with the community has always been very important. And I've always appreciated it because, and not only here, but in other roles that I've had, but just that ability to get out and talk with people and learn from them. And also to let you know, and I don't have the exact percentage, but I did check this here a while ago, about only, I'll say 25% of the Port Arthur Fire Department actually lives in Port Arthur.
Wow,
The
you say,
majority lives out.
go ahead.
I'm sorry?
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting you. It just amazed me. Go ahead and say that again.
Only about 25%, approximately 25% of the firefighters from the department live in the city. The majority live outside of the city.
Wow.
So so you talk about, connections and things like that.
Right.
They're, and they do, just so you know, I mean, again, I'll refer to them as the boots on the ground.
Yes, sir.
They're doing a dedicated job. The majority of problems are coming from a very few people who are fostering that highly toxic, corrosive culture. And that's just one of those things that's typical, right? So, guys come in to go to work, but they don't want to have anything to do with X or Y or in some cases, a lot of guys, I don't think they want to promote because they would have to work with some of these other people that are
Right.
that are in this good old boy cronyism network, and
Right,
they don't like that. So,
right, yeah.
But one of the things that, and I refer to this, one of the things that I've always advocated for is that, we'd get a BRT to go to some of these community events. Okay.
Yes.
And I refer to that as early recruitment, because here, you're going to this, and these little kiddos or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they're like, oh, okay, I think or it could be a kid that's 11, 12, 13 years old, and they're I think I do want to pursue being a firefighter or paramedic or whatever. So I always would just refer to that as early recruiting, giving these little kiddos little plastic helmets and stuff. And strangely enough, this happened in my last position out in California, where actually started a fire department from scratch and had to hire, I think it was 65 people. Anyways, after we hired everybody, one of the guys, I stopped by their station, one of the guys says, "Here, I got to show you this picture." There's a picture of him when he was in 4th grade with a bunch of his classmates. They're sitting on the side of the fire truck.
Right.
Well, guess what fire truck he's working at now?
Same one.
Exactly, the same one. But he said that the interaction that they had with the firefighters at that time, he said that planted a seed that he decided literally when he was in 4th grade that's what he wanted to pursue.
Yeah.
And so it's just, that's why I just call it early recruiting, because hey, hey, here's what you could do. We had at the Easter egg hunt thing here, before Easter, that was over at Barber Jacket Park,
Right. Yes.
we had a BRT over there, and then there was an ambulance there so that people could see both, they could learn both about the fire service and the ambulance service. And it's just opportunities like that to interact with people and, maybe plant that seed for the future for them, or to provide them with some knowledge of, being safer. The other thing I had an opportunity here a few months ago was to meet with a senior citizen group here in the city.
Right, yeah.
And I presented some things about cooking safety, because
right. Yes.
Cooking is the number one cause of residential fires in the United States and in Port Arthur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, just being able to try and make things safer for them, but also have them feel like if they had a question, they could reach out, whatever.
Right. And to kind of speak on that issue, it's personally, I always wanted to see, right? I always wanted to see like a class, like a Stop the Bleed class. I wanted to like, I think I even called one time, try to ask a cadence or somebody if they had any type of Stop the Bleed classes, right? Me, I'm a Second Amendment advocate, right? So, I like carrying firearms too, right? So being with that, you always want to have like a med kit, some type of Stop the Bleed class. And also for myself, I always thought that was kind of, interesting too. And that's kind of goes hand in hand with actual, firearms training. Go ahead, you want to do the shooting training, that's fun. But also, hey, if something happened, I need a emergency med kit. I need, something that'll stop the bleed if I get shot or if somebody else gets shot, I'm around, So I always kind of wanted them things, and it kind of, seemed like what you're doing, that's kind of, that probably would have came in the future somewhere too.
Yes. Well, that. And so, too, have you ever heard of NFPA 3000?
NFPA, what is it, like an emergency kit?
No, it's National Fire Protection Association.
Okay.
3000, it is active shooter hostile event standard.
Right.
And so the thing that we put in for last year, because I recognized that the city did not meet standards for the potential for that active shooter mass casualty event.
Right.
And so we're in the process of developing what's referred to as a rescue task force group, but also it was going to be a plan, or one of my intents was to begin to provide not only hands-only CPR, but also, like you put it, like how to do stop the bleed.
Right.
So, teach people, how to do some things, and then this is just other experiences, things like that. But like all city buildings should have tourniquets available.
Right. Yes.
And so if somebody gets angry, or if they got some event at the civic center and somebody gets mad, and they go in there and start shooting or whatever.
Right.
You got that capability. So we were looking at that, but also that was one of the things. That was another national standard that wasn't being met, was NFPA 3000, and that was initiated. Even though Mr. Burton told me that I was terminated before we got all the pieces in place.
Right.
So, but that's another one of those. How do we make things safer? And I've always thought too about being proactive, not just reactive.
Absolutely. And there's one thing I admired about you when you was talking about the tuberculosis issue and all of these issues with the ambulance truck, ambulance. When you found out about it, of course you had to react, but like with the tuberculosis, the sickness, you were doing things that you normally supposed to do, right? Just be active when it comes to health, first responder, stuff like that. So yeah, hey, I again, I salute you on that. And tell me something. I heard, were you supposed to be going to speak to council?
I put in to be a speaker, but I've not gotten word that I was approved to do that. So
right, okay,
whatever.
Okay,
yeah. I also want to mention another NFPA standard. It's 1582. It's annual physicals for firefighters.
Right.
Because, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, but firefighters have a higher risk of cancer and other medical issues
the
because
flame,
of
the smoke. The smoke.
Yeah, it's the smoke. So, they tell me that they had been doing something where firefighters have been getting some physical stuff in the past, but they haven't done it for quite a few years. So I was able to get an approval for an NFPA 1582 physical program, and that was going to be in. Actually, the way they do it is you go and you get blood test, and then the company that's doing the actual physical stuff, they will be here the first part of June. So this is the other issue, if you will, that I implemented that. I wanted to participate in it, but now the city manager cut me out of participating to find out what underlying health problems I may have as a result of serving for the city.
So let me get this straight. Now, to the boots on the ground, right? Most of the boots on the ground are going to be people that's working in Port Arthur, right? So what you saying, you wanted to put something like that's supposed to be already in play, right? Hey, you doing this dangerous job, you're getting smoke inhalation, you need to have an annual physical, right, to catch, to be proactive and catch any type of health problems that you have by working as a firefighter. And if you can do early detection, you can go ahead and take care of it, right? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It is.
And am I far off basis by saying, if you have cancer, right? If you happen to get cancer, early detection is paramount, right? Now, I don't have cancer. I know that a lot of people have had cancer and have died from cancer, right? So knowing that you have a high rate of cancer, And you're telling me that the city manager didn't want to have this program on here, and this program would provide early detection for any type of health problems, including cancer, right? And with cancer, early detection is a major deal in getting it, treating, and defeating it, right?
Yes. Well, we did get approved for the program last year, but trying to get participation from the boots on the ground, we didn't get. We got very little participation, so we couldn't actually implement the program
Right.
because of the cost involved. So then we were able to get it put into place again this year, and actually began the process of implementation. But then, the timing wise, he's now cut me out of being able to participate in that. So now my health is potentially at risk because don't know what may be out there.
Right. Right.
And
then
one
they
of the
probably
other
ain't gonna
things
do it either.
Yeah, but one of the other things I did early on here was, again, I did a very in-depth assessment that hadn't ever been done here before, and I identified a lot of areas that needed to be addressed.
Right.
But one of the areas is the smoke that comes out of fires now
Mm-hmm.
is highly toxic. Now, I'll say back in the day, way the hell back in the day, it wasn't as much. But now it's very highly toxic because of all the synthetic materials that's involved when it's burning.
Right. Yes.
So
yes.
what they've found is that when you wear your SCBA and all this kind of stuff when you go in, but then you're still going to get exposed to some smoke. And so what science had found was that when you come out, it's in your best interest to do a quick decontamination. And they recommended that you wiped your face off and your neck off.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got here and realized that they weren't doing that, is it put the firefighters at much higher risk of cancer and that. We implemented a program that involved these wipes they're called hero wipes.
Right.
And if you will, they almost look like little baby wipes.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, right.
But they're the hero wipes. They're actually designed
First
specifically
responders.
for fires.
Yeah, I can get hero.
So,
I can get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the recommendation is when you go into the fire and you put it out, and then when you come out, you take your helmet off and your hood off and your mask off. Get a hero wipe your hands off, and then take another hero wipe and wipe your face and your neck
Mm-hmm.
and everything else off too, because then what they found is that helps to reduce the amount of that toxic product that may be on your skin, where it helps reduce its ability to get into your body.
Right. And
So
right, okay. And tell me about Havens, right? Louis Havens, right? So when and then I believe this is kind of well, you tell me, what do you believe the main motivation was for terminating you?
Well, the after Acadian, bringing in the second ambulance service, and then after Acadian, for the last 3 or 4 months, I've experienced and recognized the city manager has definitely adjusted or changed his level of courtesy to me.
Right.
So I was anticipating, and I saw precursors to some of this before.
Right.
So I knew what was going to be happening.
Yeah.
And you know, and so, but he did tell me when he called me in on the 25th to terminate me. It was Assistant City Manager Dr. Thigpen was in there, and the interim city attorney was in there. And Mr. Burton says, I am unhappy with the direction you're taking department. I'm therefore terminating you effective today. I said, well, can you be specific on the specific concerns that you have on the direction? He said, no.
Right.
So I never, and the other thing was when I first started, he had indicated that he had a goal of Port Arthur Fire achieving international accreditation.
Right.
And that was one of the things that I was working towards as well. But he never gave me any input or feedback if he was unhappy with something, which is as a good manager or supervisor, if somebody's not doing something to you, to what you want them to achieve, isn't it most appropriate for you as that effective manager or supervisor to say, hey, we need to sit down and talk about this because you're not achieving this or whatever you're doing here. And then you give that person a chance to make those corrective actions or take those corrective steps. I wasn't given that opportunity. He just said, nope, you're done.
Right.
So I do think a lot of this has to do with some of the ambulance service, and also it's another sign of why it's not just, I mean, the city itself, there's a very interesting toxic culture in the city itself. And
yes, sir.
The other thing, which is really strange, is 2 weeks or no, on the 11th of April, he was a speaker at Rotary Club.
Right. Yes.
And when he was speaking there, he brought, he made comments about how proud he was of what I had done, how I was doing, how he brought me in. He was glad he did that, not lots of positive comments. And then 2 weeks later, he's saying he's unhappy and he's terminating me.
Yes, I seen that. It was in Delfino's video. Yes.
Yeah.
I absolutely seen it. These are snakish and backstabbing they are. And to kind of give you a little bit of history, right? We had a city manager named Floyd Johnson. Came down here from Florida, if I'm not mistaken. He was a person out of town that didn't know anybody, and he got ran off. The politics was so bad where I think he had health problems because of it, and they ended up running him out of here. They had a gentleman by the name of Brian McDougal, city manager. That was him and the police chief, Patrick Melvin, right? They both came from Indian reservations, and that's when they was trying to sell the big deal of, hey, we're going to get a casino on the Pleasure Island. So that was that big, that big pipe dream. So they went and got city manager and a former police chief that had experience with Indian reservation casinos or Indian reservations. So end up getting rid of McDougal, right? He fell into with the politics. He didn't end up doing this job. They made him look stupid, right? He wasn't listening to the council, and he figured that his personal relationships from the district attorney back then, and also I think the Chamber of Commerce, right? You have certain individuals that he listened to that, hey, you got to listen to the council. You can't just completely disrespect the council and the city. So they end up getting him out of here. Patrick Melvin, he caused so much dissension with the police department, right? They had lawsuits flying left and right. Different officers end up, terminating them for no reason. So they end up putting a no confidence vote against him. So he didn't hurt his career. He looked, bad trying to, create a toxic culture, right? Just trying to screw everybody. Like I was saying, in his particular situation, there's no there was no call for a police chief to come in and start firing everybody. You don't do that. Nobody doesn't come from out of town, come in, take a new job, want to fire everybody that's local, right? Unless somebody was giving him the order, trying to command him to do it, right? So,
Right.
and then now we see, with your issue, right? People that come in here, they want to do the right thing, get kicked out, or if they fall into politics, they end up getting kicked out anyway for not doing the actual job because they want to just straight doing the politics. So it's crazy that we have this going on, but that's one of my main purposes, trying to get people to understand the corruption going on. And yeah, brother, that's pretty much it. I kind of let you, close it out if you want to have the last word, or if you want to say something that I end up not speaking about, or I forgot to mention.
Well, you know what? To some of those, to the point you were just um, speaking about with previous city managers and how that all works. But one of the things that Mr. Burton has always stated is that he's the epitome of transparency and also accountability. But in this particular case, he didn't provide any information, so there was no transparency. And also, and this has been brought up by several people that heard him speak at Rotary. They're asking, well, if he said that then, but he fired you 2 weeks later, was he lying?
Right. And, which way he lying on? Yeah.
Right. And then the other thing that's been brought up is that, there's other people, other city employees, and other city department heads that their performance is really low, and he's not holding them accountable.
Absolutely.
Because of a lot of the cronyism that's present there. And so it's, but I mean, I understand how things are, and, that's, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, very focused on providing that service above self, and
right.
What can be done for people. And I also recognize that if God is saying, hey, you need to this chapter in your story your life is gonna be shut down, then there might be a reason for that.
Right.
So and but I still having still all the actions was what could be done for the members of the community and also the members of the department to assist, to help them to be, to help the boots on the ground to be safer and more effective in what they were doing, and also moving towards being more, transforming to a more professional standard model. But then that would have positive benefits to those folks that are living and experiencing some of this. But I also know that can only do what we can do, and and you got other people that are making decisions and stuff. But when they're really making some of the decisions that are being made, it's really also telling another story. And let me just, if you don't mind, just explain this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I heard a really good message here a few Sundays ago, and the message was that essentially what you say and what you do, if they're the same thing, that's a sign of good character, and that's in alignment with what God is asking you to do. But if you say one thing and you do something else, that is not in alignment, and you're also showing that you have poor character.
Oh, absolutely. These jokers here, especially you got these fake pastors on council, they will lie, cheat, steal, and say that God instructed them to do it. That's how low down we have it here. And oh yeah, I wanted to, you remind me of what I wanted to say right now. Now what you said earlier was HR 101, right? Anytime you want to have disciplinary termination or anything, you want to at least instruct if I'm a manager staff, you want to instruct the employee, department head, hey, these are some deficiencies. Hey, and this is what I'm saying. You need these are deficiencies, and you need to fix them. And this is how you need to fix them. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, X, Y, Z, and give you the time to go ahead and fix those problems, right? And that has to come up from a multiple standpoint, not just one time, not just saying, no, I don't care, right? I think everybody really knows, right? That this is pretty much a sham, right? I don't think they have anybody fooled. Only people that may not know it's food, but most of the people actually understand what's going on and all of the corruption that's going on involved. So, oh yeah, and I would say now you don't have now. I would say don't answer what I'm about to say now, right? I would say I would advise you go ahead, look at attorney, look at attorney if you are looking at for attorneys, right? Tell your attorney right now it's the right time to go ahead and try to hit the city of Port Arthur because they don't have a actual city attorney in place. And the interim city attorney, from what I understand, he has his own private practice. I heard he be coming in at 11 o'clock half the day also. So he's not really trying to make any waves. So you don't really have a city attorney that's actually invested in what's going on in the city of Port Arthur. So, let your attorney know if you're looking for an attorney, let them know, hey, it's my opinion right now be the time to strike. Boom, and they're just gonna probably hand it off to somebody else that don't have all the information, and whatever attorney is going to transfer it to somebody, they're not going to have all the information. So, I would say just remind your attorney that we don't have an actual full time attorney right now that's that's in the city of Port Arthur.
Right. Yeah. No, I'll definitely let them know. But the other thing, just to let you know too, you probably saw some of that info that was put out by Mayor Bartie about the vote of no confidence that was done against me.
Right. Yes. Talk about the lies that Beatty and Bartie puts out. Yes, sir.
Well, yeah, but somebody would have told him that they had a vote of no confidence.
Yes, absolutely.
And so who that was, they lied to the mayor. And he, he put that out because he thought that was legitimate, but they lied to him. They gave him misinformation.
Right, you're right. They have him looking there. They had the mayor looking like a fool, but he's used to looking like a fool, and he doesn't really research. Now it's kind of embarrassing that the mayor. Now I'm actually embarrassed talking to you about the mayor, right? The only reason, see, this is how bad we have it in Port Arthur, right? That mayor has been kicked out of a church. The mayor has been disbarred from disbarred from being. He can't be a justice of the peace in Texas ever in his life, right? And one of the reasons was because he was beating on kids, he was in truancy court, right? Beating on the kids, cursing out the parents, he even told when he was doing magistrate duties, right? He even told a person that he was going to sleep with their wife while he's locked up. Now, all of this is public record. You can Google up Bartie, Thurman Bartie, Justice of the Peace, Port Arthur Tribunal, and that'll all pull up. All of those instances will pull up. So I'm kind of embarrassed, right? The only reason why he's a mayor is because he had a church following, right? And sometimes the church following is like a cheat code into getting into politics. Instead of having a politician that's homegrown, that's been putting out work that's in the community, hey, I'm gonna go get one of these crooked pastors, and hey, most of the time the congregation, if they believe he's a good pastor, he's gonna be a good politician, right? And that's not always the case. Very rarely is that the case, right? So that's how they use, these politicians and pastors over here in Port Arthur. So, and the pastors, and they have alleged allegations of him on crack cocaine. There's allegations. You talk to anybody, they'll kind of let you know about that.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed for telling you this is our mayor. I'm embarrassed for telling you this is Port Arthur. I know you've heard it too, talking with different people. So
Yeah.
that's the issue we have in Port Arthur now. Saying stupid stuff, you know, that's Bartie's MO. That's his main objective. So, you know, getting the information right, it's not his strong point. So that's just the way how he is.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
any of that
Oh,
history, if
I
you
know.
will.
Oh, I know.
No,
Oh, I know.
I understand. But it is somewhat, I'll say though, problematic if somebody from the department, provided that information to him and that was inaccurate, and that person knew, the person that told him that, they knew it was inaccurate, then why they did that, but also what else might they have told the city manager that he, like you said, he never never brought it to my attention, like you should have. So I think, and some of that I think is also a potential retaliation action that could be attributed to some of the ambulance or
Oh,
the
yes.
ambulance. So, but it's still, what's, hey, again, decisions are made. But I just look at it as, okay, if I was able to make something, make it a safer community for the community members, and also make the department safer for for the department members, then okay, there's people to do that. And if some people don't want me here anymore, okay, that's fine. That's up to them. No problem.
Hey,
Close that chapter in life, right?
right, right. And I can say, I guarantee you, from what I know about you, the citizens want you, and they really need you in this city. In this city, unfortunately, we just kind of swimming in a whole sea of nothing but corruption and crooks around here. But, oh yeah, but we need you, right? I've just proven you've saved lives, right? You've saved black folks' lives, white folks' lives, Hispanic lives. You save lives with a different multitude of races, right? And that's more than I could say when any of them crooks on the council.
Yeah, well, just so you know, I've never cared what either race or gender of a person.
I
If
believe
I
it.
could help them, I did it.
I believe it. I believe you. I absolutely believe you.
And it's just, I mean, just so you know, just way the hell back in the day when I was on a box, I was involved in delivering two African American babies and a Spanish one as well.
Right.
As the total of 9, we delivered 9 babies over that time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate
Could have
it.
cared what race they were. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
They're babies. You know what I mean? They're
Oh
people.
yeah, absolutely. They're babies, precious. Yeah, they shouldn't have to be subjected to the prejudice and the evil of this world, you know?
Right. No. And then, hey, at the end of the day, we're all people.
Right, absolutely.
And, what, it don't matter, again, what you look like, what your gender is, all that kind of stuff. We're all people. And, how can we help these people? So, yeah, but, sorry if I meandered on stuff. I didn't mean to do that.
Oh, no, there's no problem, brother. There's no problem. Yeah, I was just, kind of, letting you kind of wrap it up because I'm going to go in my rant a little bit after this, right? I'm going to go in my rant, and it is going to be a little bit profanity. So, I want to go ahead and get the the PG version, wrapped up with, and I'm going to kind of go in on one of my famous rants. So, yeah. Hey, again, man, if you need to say the last word, I'm going to go ahead and let you take it out, brother.
No, it's been an honor and a privilege to have tried to contribute, or I shouldn't say not tried, but worked on contributing to increasing the safety and the lifestyle health for these people in the city. There's a lot more to do, put it that way, but making a difference is, again, I follow 3 words: service, safety, and excellence. And understand that never been perfect. So always, every experience is learning. How can I make things better? But always working to the focus of service above self.
Yes, sir. Hey, and I sure do appreciate that. And I wish you much success in your future endeavors. If for whatever reason you have to come back over here, or if you happen to, hey, have a settlement and leave out here and make your next chapter in the rest of your life, I really do appreciate for the lives that you've saved here and the amount of the contribution that you've given in such a short time, sir.
Oh, well, thank you very much. No, I appreciate that those comments, but again, it's all what we can do,
Yes, sir.
to
Yes,
help
sir.
people. And just to continue to work on making the community, improving the community and improving the health and safety of members in the community, as well as the members on the fire department.
Yes, sir. It was good talking to you, brother. Talk to you. Oh, yeah. Anytime you need to, hey, anytime you want to, put something out there in the atmosphere, hey, just let me know. You can come on the PA Political Revolution podcast anytime, sir.
Okay. No, I'll let you know, and I definitely appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. And again, these are I've always enjoyed having, I'll say, even interesting conversations. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because even if you and I disagree about something, that's okay, because maybe I've never thought about that from another perspective, or whatever it is. But learning from that, but having conversations, it has always been a positive thing. To, oh geez, I never realized about that. And I've always said silly things like, we don't have to agree on everything.
Right.
But at least let's be respectful when we speak.
Absolutely.
So no, I appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir. No problem, man. Take it easy. Talk to you later, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. Very good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. All right.
Bye. Okay. Here we go now. Let me go ahead and translate all of this in my goddamn language, right? Let me go ahead and translate all of this. What you have is these goddamn dogs, right? These goddamn sellout house ninja dogs you got on council, right? You got Ron Burton, you got Thurman Bartie, right? You have fake ass cheating pastor, adulterous, what's that motherfucker name? Frank, right? You got this old sellout scary ass Thomas Kinlaw, right? You got these individuals, right, that sell out the people, right? They have and you goddamn got the Dumbo Hamilton. You got her dumb behind, but she's in Baltimore, right? She out of town, so hell, you forget about her sometimes. We got these dog ass sellouts, right? These sellout house ninjas, right? These crooks are so goddamn bad. These Negroes will kill you, right? We got some sellouts that will kill you. They will kill you over a doggone. They will have this killer ambulance service that will doggone let you die because of a kickback. Now, it gotta be common sense, right? If you have an ambulance service, if you have a doggone ambulance service that goddamn phone blowing up, lost my train of thought. If you have this ambulance service that's not providing a goddamn service to you, and you have city ambulance service coming in and trying to do the right thing, that have dedicated ambulance services right here in the city of Port Arthur, you gotta be a fool if you want to go ahead and go back to Acadian ambulance service, right? Citizens, this is what comes to you right now. If this has to be the most important podcast of your goddamn life, because I have laid out where the city of Port Arthur is willing to kill you. They will let you die, right? They are so corrupt. You have this fire department that got these mofos from out of town. Only 25% of the doggone fire department lives in Port Arthur, Texas. Now, you not having the jobs, this is crazy. When you let out-of-towners control your goddamn EMS, right? Not EMS. When you have out-of-towners control your first response, like the police and fire department, right? Especially fire department, because they're first responders, right? And they have an inside with the doggone EMS. And now you let these racist ass Klansmen with Acadiana damn near kill you, right? Now, if you remember, they had this old racist ass chick over there with Acadian with that Kobe Bryant situation, right? Remember, you have people that's willing to let black and brown folk goddamn die. You have people, in my opinion, right? All of this is my opinion. Don't have no proof of it, right? But you just seen the fire chief podcast the statistics where they have been fudging the numbers. They've been falsifying the numbers of coming in and responding to your ass, right? While you had these other alleged racist ass goddamn chiefs like Richard and motherfucking Louis ass, right? You have these racist ass people, in my opinion, that's what I'm getting the word on them. They don't give a damn about you. They don't give a damn. They will let you goddamn die because they want to keep the money flowing and drain this goddamn city. Now, people, you gonna have to be sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? You gonna have to goddamn, like I said before, make this a hostile work environment for these crooked politicians. Don't believe a goddamn thing they telling you that's positive. Don't believe none of that crap, right? All of that is fake doggone propaganda. Don't believe none of this crap from the city or the school district, right? You got to understand, you got Bartie, you got Ron Burton, you got Frank, you got Hamilton, you got Kinlaw. All of these are the enemy of black folks, Hispanic folks, and white folks in Port Arthur, right? Because I guarantee you this. Them ambulance services, if you get the call that you need some help and you goddamn white, you goddamn gonna got almost died too dealing with with the former killer ambulance service, right? You have them doggone if it goes back to them. So people, you have to wake the flip up. You have to wake your dumb ass up, right? And stop goddamn wanting to question me, don't know if I'm telling the truth, all this stuff right here, and listen to what in the hell I'm telling you, right? Now, I didn't say that, you got the chief over there saying, right? The former fire chief, right? He's from out of town. He's not from here, right? So he's telling you about the good doggone corruption in here, right? So you can't say it's just me. I got a doggone staff member, the fire chief, telling you the exact same thing. So this is how Port Arthur would never be at the top, right? I don't care what superstar, single employee, single doggone council member, you got to fight the majority on the council that's corrupt. You got to fight them, right? And if you a friend of goddamn Bartie, Hamilton, Frank, Ron Burton, Kinlaw, screw you too, because you are the exact reason that our city is under siege by these goddamn crooks. Now, this has been the episode of the PA Political Revolution Podcast. Until the next time, everybody, take it easy. Peace.